a radio program like no other.
Very many people out there who do not even take on any evaluation, just jump in. Oh, my friend says he's making a lot of money. Oh, my auntie says this is good business. The same way you've jumped in, you jump out.
Get insights from a seasoned expert.
Of course, an angel is an individual private investor, someone who has excess wealth and they'd like to invest in a private business.
Talk about your one-stop shop business program.
That's the whole essence of having a business school on radio.
It's your business school on radio. Navigate with ID right here on Lagos Talks 91.3, airing on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3 to 4 p.m.
And if you need to get across to me, please send an email to contact@navigatewithid.com, or you can also follow me on my social media platforms at IDYENANG. Thank you so much and God bless.
Lagos Talks 91.3 and Corporate Shepherds presents the Man of the Hour. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome ID Enang. This is Navigate with ID Enang.
Honeywell it goes. I love Honeywell.
Now your favorite brand, Honeywell, is back. Available in noodles, semolina, and pasta in stores nationwide.
Honeywell is back with it. Everybody come and sing.
This is Navigate with ID, brought to you by Corporate Shepherds.
Welcome, my dear friends and very distinguished listeners. It's 2025. This is Navigate with ID and Business School on Radio. Friends, we are kicking off with a serious jump start. And the first episode of the year, I had my sister and friend Vida Chetabu, and I did promise that we're going to, kick off on a note that will make everyone sit up and have a great time. Today, I have none other than the man of the moment, as you always hear. Doyin Oluwole is back on the beat, and it's good to say Happy New Year. And Doyin, Happy New Year, man.
Happy New Year, my brother. Good to be here.
Yes, we are here finally. And it's good to have you on the program. More or less, I had to use you. I don't mean it, but in a negative form. But you served almost like, a test run of what I'd like to do, and we were doing this year, a format where we'll be having this very good triangulation of thoughts, and I call it, ping pong here and there to learn a lot more. So I don't have to be the only guy on the beat. So it's good to have you. And I'm just thinking in my head, how would you feel if I tell you that the theme that I'm looking at for this month is about starting strong and building momentum? And, in that whole space, it's all about a fresh beginning. So, Mr. Oluwole, what are your thoughts around turning this page on a new year?
Wow. That's a big question. That is a very big question. Let me say Happy New Year again to everyone, to all of our listeners. And we pray that this year turns out to be a very rewarding and fulfilling one for each and every one of us.
Amen.
So, looking at it, that, like I said, that's a very big question, because my take is that we should always look at everything in totality instead of looking at one side or one tiny little part of it. It's like a pizza. If you're buying pizza, pizza is cut into different, little parts. Like usually it's about 8 at times.
Eight sliced.
Exactly, into slices. So my take is that when it comes to life has slices like that, and all those slices put together make up the whole. When we try to make one slice the entirety of life, then we run into problems. For instance, when we come in and people just want to start the year, if you remember back in the day, it was about resolutions. What is your New Year resolution? And then people will come up with all sorts of resolutions. Interesting ones, funny ones, real strong ones. However, the question should be, where are the resolutions coming from? Now, that is the main thing. Where are those resolutions coming from? The same thing we hear with some other people. Oh, this year, last year was bad financially. I want to make money. I want to, really make things blow. I want to blow, like we say in Nigeria. Okay, but where is that coming from? Because we need to check. We need to understand. We need to identify what the key issues are. And because man is a complete being, man is a tripartite being of spirit, soul, and body. All of these parts put together make us function and function optimally. You cannot function with one part and leave the others. It's not going to happen. Nothing is going to happen. So how do I see it when it comes to a fresh beginning? I see it in, let me say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. I see it. Maybe there might be more parts. There might be more pieces of this pizza of life. But for me, for now, let's just say I see 5 parts. Starting with 1, the spiritual life, our spiritual lives, or your spiritual life. 2 is your professional life. Then 3 is your financial life, which I deliberately separated from the professional. And then 4, your physical life. When I'm here, I mean physical health and wellness. That's what I mean here. And then 5 will be the social life. And so all of these things need to be put together for us to function optimally. I'll give you an example. I'm not trying to butter you up. I'm just telling the truth like it is. From being closer to ID Enang over time, sharing a lot of ideas and discussing issues, I realized that my social capital is like minus 185%. So I have to work 185% to get to 0 level. And then from that place, begin to develop to grow into 1%, 2%, and then I'll work my way up to the top with the ID compared to the IDs of this world that are probably at 90-something%.
You're not serious.
Really. I'm serious. I kid you not.
Yeah, not serious.
So that is the reality, because like I always say, tell yourself the truth. When you can tell yourself the truth, there's nothing as powerful as that, because it will show you, the blueprint. You will see the direction, and it will help you to achieve your goals so that you know where you're going to. So for doing now, I know that my social, like I said, capital is abysmally low, and I really need to grow it. So I now need to begin to put things in place for my social capital to grow. Why do I say that? Because the reality is that in life, in business or professionally or in marketing, like we all know, after you have all the basics, the fundamentals put together, you're proficient, you're professional, you have good products and all of that. You know what? It's not really about that at the end of the day, because quite a number of people have those same things. So you end up with, like we say in marketing, parity products. You have the same thing that Mr. B has. You have the same thing that Mr. C has. So what is the next step? The next step is that people are going to buy you. They're going to buy you. They can relate to you. There is that affinity that has developed in relating to you. So they buy you. So if your social capital is not developed, chances are that your financial life or your business life or your professional life might not be as strong as it should be. And that's why I keep saying that all of these things make up the whole. So all these things need to come together. But we'll get into the details as we progress. So
No,
that's it for the opening.
yeah, this is quite profound. If you don't mind, listing the five, I almost wanted to call them the five fingers of the year, because we're talking about turning the tap on the year, a fresh beginning.
Yes.
Talked of spiritual life, professional life, financial, social, and what's the fifth one?
The physical health and wellness.
Physical. Look at me. Physical life, that's health and wellness. Actually, this is everything. This is everything, bros. And by the way, as one looks through this kind of lens, I just imagine a lot of things popping in my head. So if I was to take this from my own personal standpoint, I think this actually, fits within the ambits of, if you recall, I talked about four major goal areas I want to look at going forward. The first one was around health and physical wellness. Okay. The second was around relationships. I did talk about it. And that's when I talked about family, professional, relationships, and of course, everything that, sits within the ambits of its socials. Then the third was lifelong learning, which I spoke to spiritual development, professional development, and then finally it was about finance. So, as I look at the boxes of big pillars that you've raised, and we've started this year, it's 2025. When it gets into that spiritual space, and I like the fact that, put it as number one. To be honest with you, without the man discovering his or her spirituality, one will be groping it dark. I don't know about a lot of people who do not even are not in touch with their spirituality. Once you are not in touch with your spirituality, you are, at best, you're just, I don't know how to put it. You're kind of lost, in my opinion. And so one of the things I would really, put out there to all our listeners is, guys, you need to just find a way and the right balance to say to yourself, who am I? How did I get here? What is the purpose of my being? And who should I owe my allegiance to? Then you'll then begin to talk about a spiritual being and go on that journey to discover who that spiritual being will be. Of course, it's God Almighty. And once that steps into the arena, as in your quest to understand your spirituality, and then the spiritual development, and then the life that comes from it, all other things will begin to fall in place because illumination will come. You will be enlightened as to what you need to do, as to how you need to manage your resources, and who you should be able to connect with. And that's the social part that Doyin is talking about. So, Doyin, it would be nice for you to unpack. I know you've unpacked the social life, and thanks for, trying to make me feel good, but I know I'm not in the 90s. I know where you're coming. I know where you're coming from. You've always been the quiet introvert artist, graphic artist, art creative, sitting in one corner and drawing all those big heads right from school. And we will always feature in the Noisemakers book written by the Monitor. And you remember the Monitor we used to have, the Rotimi Fashida?
Rotimi Fashida. I remember him.
That guy would have his Anki right on his collar. He was as neat as anything you could call.
Neat as ever.
Very neat. In one C. Rotimi Fashida. And yes, he was in one C.
No one contested it with him in Form 2C.
No, nobody did. Monitor. And then he had the best handwriting I'd ever seen at that time.
Yes.
It was a print. his notes were fascinating. If you don't make class, just collect Rotimi's book. God has fashioned folks to be just unique. He was a unique one. So, you had always been the quiet, uh, nice guy in the class, but that didn't mean that you didn't revolve around all the boys. So give yourself some more credit. I think you do have it. Nobody can sit with you, and if you get into your space about talking about jazz, bebop, and the likes of John Coltrane, Clue, and a man that doesn't have vast social fiber that can tell you a lot about jazz and in all ramifications and genres. And before we came on, we're talking about when I was, talking about that track. You gave it to me, the Barclays and Night Cruising.
Oh, Night Cruising.
Night Cruising, Barclays. So how on earth did you know about Barclays? How did you know about Night Cruising? And, it goes on. So I think you need to give yourself a lot more credit than you are. And I understand relatively. Some of us are just, I don't want to say we're just out there. And sometimes
you're just natural. Some of you are just natural.
We're just out there, just sitting in. But frankly speaking, getting to unpack this year as it turns out, and I really want us, and to make it a lot easier for folks so that they do some things differently. I was reading some very good excerpts. I've always taken an interest in psychology. I don't know if I'm ever going to run a PhD program, which I don't intend to.
I think you
vehemently.
Should.
No, doing.
I really think you should.
I've read and I've done so much inside this my brain that going to sit another 3 years for a PhD program, there's so much that one has put out there and I'm just not ready. But I would love psychology, to go into human psychology. Yes, sir.
I think that we need Nigeria. We need our own Jordan Peterson. I tell you, we need brilliant minds like Jordan Peterson. They call him the present day Carl Jung. Incredibly brilliant fellow.
Yeah.
Bringing up a whole lot of things to light and helping us to see better and to have a comprehensive understanding. And I believe that you doing that, getting that PhD with your experience in marketing, in management and skills, that's just, I don't even know how far that's going to go.
I've put myself in trouble, and I've kicked myself into the public eye. And I hope the listeners are not listening to you, and they'll start pumping me with this push. But honestly, I thank you for the credit. I look at this, and there are things that you would understand. I mean, Jordan Peterson is some great psychologist, and if you look at how he's been able to shape his views on cultural and political issues, you'll see, you might consider him to be conservative, but he would always see himself as a classic. And I don't even know where I sit in all of those kind of things. I don't even want to think about it. But there are a few things that are potential markers. And then one can just say, okay, here's it. And here's the point. Now, what I was trying to say in essence is that when you look at the lives of successful people and you say to yourself, what do they do in their free time? Successful people or individuals, this is what research and psychology has proven. One of the things they do is that they read, and they read for growth. They take in so much, they are voracious with their reading. And so the stimulation that they get and the ability to be able to put a lot of stuff out there, it's amazing. So if you don't expand your knowledge, you can't improve cognitive functions like memory and focus. So I would really, and I'm taking this from a standpoint of one of the big points you mentioned, which was around the professional life. If you take the professional life, the financial life, social and spiritual, one factor that would help that is reading, because it will contribute to personal or professional growth. And which is why I'm tapering away from the whole PhD program. I mean, after so many years, but I don't want to put myself in your hands again for you to give me this Chudo what is that, your black belt, whatever, chop. I'll go get myself in trouble. That
I'm not black yet. I'm just blue now.
Yeah, blue. Whatever color you are, brown, blue, green. I don't want to get that chop. That will make me just pass out.
After brown is black.
After brown is black. Yeah. Well,
so I'm blue now.
Oh, fantastic! You've done well. I know you've been trying to encourage me to come and step into that space. But seriously, though, when you look at it, and I asked myself if I just stay on this a bit, when I started my career as a little student, people don't see that being a student is a career on its own. So how did I get into the University of Cross River State, as we used to call it then, the State University? And, I started as, running through a particular program, and then I got myself into economics. But then here I was, starting year one. I don't know who gave me that idea, but each time my mom will send some money to me for feeding, my dad, I'll just go to school. I beg your pardon. I'll go to, then we had this space, one guy that used to sell books. I'll just go there and buy one book. Do you know that from Form 1 to Form 4, I had a very rich library. I had books. I mean, year one, I had micro, macro. I had a book on econometrics, Kosianis. I can still tell you all of these books that I had all the way through, and some of them are still in my library today. I had Kosianis. Kosianis, that was the one for econometrics. I bought economic development. I had books in those majors. I had in project planning, and I had all of that. But I bought one book at a time. Little did I know that I was invested in my future. So, and I would not tell you that I read all the books, but I kind of took some in. I imbibed it. I loved it. I would read, wake up late at night in my little room then. I lived off campus, all my years in the university. I never stayed in the hostel with my guys. That's when we had Big Brother house. My cousin had this duplex. He wasn't, and when he left, all my friends, my core friends, Otu, Iman, Tivolt, we all was a 5-bedroom duplex, and everybody had a room. It was the boys' hostel, more or less. And then my late cousin, and a friend, they had the master bedroom. There were 6 rooms, actually. But I'll tell you, I started reading, buying those books. Each time my mom would send money to me, or my dad, I'll take 1 naira out of it, or 1 naira or 2 naira, and I'll go and buy a book. That's how I built my library. Fast forward, I ended up graduating second class upper. I won 3 university prizes. One, best graduating student in development economics, best graduating student, and then there was a third one, I can't remember. And I was given cash awards. I won. I didn't even understand that I would win any prize at graduation or convocation. That spurred me. And so when I started my life, I joined Guinness. And we were always on the road traveling, marketing people. Every trip, I would buy a book. It became the norm for me till this day. So I invested in myself through personal development by A, investing in books, B, reading. I wasn't an avid reader, but I touched with all of this and it widened my perspective. And so when I got into marketing and I got into different roles, it always helped me because I'd always read something somewhere. Just the same way we are talking now about Jordan Peterson and Carl Jung and all that, and how I found myself in psychology and being a coach, an executive coach. So this is turning the year on for me. And so what am I going to do differently this year? To all our listeners out there, it's going to be a different year. Yes, much of the same. You're going to have this business school running, different format. However, I think it's time for me to dimensionalize the products that I've continually given and shared, either by way of experience or what I know. The last thing I want to do is to leave this planet and not be emptied. I need to empty myself. I want to leave empty when that time comes, by the grace of God, at a ripe old age, okay? So everyone listening to me out there, you must invest in personal development. Do not, just take things for granted. You won't believe this. Nobody taught me. But I decided, because I knew that the tithe was unto the Lord, 10% of what we'd earn was unto the Lord, I decided to take 10% of my gross income and I started investing it in myself. So I started with a year, 10,000 Naira was our annual, when I started as management trainee at Guinness, was 10,000 Naira. Then it was moved to 12,000 Naira. We're given a 20% increase after a while. There were some union discussions after a few months. So they gave us a 20% raise. So it became 12,000. I just took a paltry 1,000, 1,200. And that's what I used to buy some of the books I did have. And I remember another person then was Kunle Arofin. We're all in the same set at Guinness. So this is my own story. This is what has gotten me the habit I've had over the years. So today, I have a little bit of a library. It's nowhere near what others, but I'm proud of it. I can swing into several contexts of work, but I'll tell you, it has helped my professional journey. And to a large extent, it has helped shape my spiritual life too, because different versions of the good book, the Bible, and also, having to study to show yourself approved. So that's my story in terms of how I want to turn on this year. And folks are going to see a different kind of ID in 2025. And I'm not talking about resolutions. These are things that I told myself I must do. So that's pretty much, my own perspective. I mean, you gave me this 5-pointer, so I decided to just fill it for you.
Oh, thank you. You've done excellently well, I tell you.
Well, I think, thanks, I kind of slipped into injury time. Friends, we'll be right back. Let's take a break, pay some bills, and you'll be glad you gave us the opportunity. Don't touch the dial.
This is Navigate with ID, brought to you by Corporate Shepherds.
I love Honeywell.
Now your favorite brand, Honeywell, is back. Available in noodles, semolina, and pasta in stores nationwide.
Honeywell is back with it. Everybody come and sing.
This is Navigate with ID, brought to you by Corporate Shepherds.
Welcome back, dear friends. It's still Navigate with ID, your business school on radio. It's a refreshing time, and I have Doyin Oluwole with me, and we've been looking at the fresh beginning and a fresh start. Doyin, welcome back. You set me up, and I started going down into memory, and How did you just do this? That you used juju for me, oh boy. I just, I don't know. I'm short of words, but you kind of opened the tap there, man.
That's a very good thing to do, to keep opening taps. We have to open the taps of the mind so that, value keeps pouring out and doing good for everyone.
Yeah. So, how do you move this conversation from the 5 dimensions you put on the table? You set a trap for me and I fell into it.
That was not a trap. That was the path that we both started, and we're having a very good trail on this path.
No, it's interesting, but sincerely, I think listeners should look out for some very interesting packages coming out of this table by God's grace this year. It's going to be really loaded. I'm actually trusting God to have master classes that will be dimensionalized for 400 level students. I'm going to focus on them. Those guys that are about to leave, I think they are so neglected. We all think about them going for NYSC, but nobody prepares them for the road ahead. So would like to invest in that. Would like to invest in the YPs. I'd like to invest in the YPs. You know what I mean by YPs? Young professionals who've had 1 to about 3 years experience, then take on the middle managers, the senior managers, and the top execs, and be able to share with each and every level with the different things they're doing. These master classes are all going to be there, but mostly they'll be all in digital format, so digitized, so and then physical stuff. This is how we are going to build. This is how we are going to build the future. This country and indeed the continent needs to have change makers, and I trust God that you and I and very many others should be able to help people turn on the taps and make their lives, have some meaning. So, help us through this maze that you've taken us into. Talk about how one should be objectively looking at raising the bar.
Okay. Now, I would like to take the baton from you, because you've made so many valid points, so many profound, nuggets that should not be let go of. This is what I see. I think that the human mind, like we all know, 2 basic parts, the conscious and the unconscious. At times people say the subconscious inclusive. But we know that the unconscious mind is a whopping 95%, and the conscious mind 5%. Now, when people do things, because we are born tabula rasa, we take from the world that we're born into. We take knowledge from the things we see, things we've heard, things we've read, experiences, all sorts of things. That's what helps us along as we progress in life. So when people take certain lines of actions, those lines of actions are not coming from nothingness. They're not coming from emptiness. They're coming from a source that might be in the unconscious. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because when you started going out to buy books, to go in a particular direction, I do not think that you just started doing those things. Some things had been, imputed inside of you, like the monarch butterfly. The monarch butterflies that go from Mexico all the way to Canada and back, and they impute data in the eggs that they lay, because they will die on the way to Canada, and those eggs metamorphose into other butterflies, and those ones continue the journey. And that's been amazing to scientists, for butterflies to know that, we're continuing a particular journey, and those ones get to a particular point, they also grow old and die, and they lay eggs, and the cycle is repeated, And they keep continuing the journey till they get to Canada. And from Canada, they go all the way back to Mexico again. You apparently had some data imputed in you, one way or the other. But because we're not monarch butterflies, because we're humans that can learn from the five senses, there are quite a number of things that you are taking in. But those things, I think that those things were not in your conscious mind, but in your unconscious mind, which takes 95%. And in that unconscious mind, it started to help to guide you. So either you walked into it, you staggered into it, you stumbled into it, you groped your way into it, you went to purpose, because those things were already in place in the unconscious mind, pointing you to your purpose. That's why I believe that purpose is the totality of all that we have talked about. It is when you know your purpose that you're not running in circles. It's when you know your purpose that everything begins to align with what it is that you're doing or where it is that you're headed. When you know your purpose, you will realize that your social life, your professional life, everything will align to that purpose. So the first thing I believe that the average person should be doing is to even discover that purpose. At the risk of being immodest, and I apologize for this, I think that it might be a tough question for a lot of people when you ask them, what is your purpose in life? I'm not sure a lot of people can conveniently or comfortably or easily answer, that question. So when you know your purpose, you know the things that you need in different areas of your life to come together for that purpose. When you do not know your purpose, chances are that you will guess, you will wonder, you will, a whole lot of things will happen. And for some, they might discover that purpose much later in life when a lot of time has gone past. And that's when they just become philosophers, in quote, because they didn't achieve what they were supposed to achieve. So I believe strongly that when we're looking at the year ahead and we're saying, oh, this 2025, it has to be a great year. Fantastic. Agreed. It has to be a great year. It should be a great year. It must be a great year. However, the question is, what really is your purpose in life? It is when you know your purpose that you are able to write out a vision. Now, this might not be easy to do individually, and so they will need the services of professionals to do that. People like ID Enang and a humble Doyolu. So it is when you are able to craft your vision that your mission then begins to come to life, because the vision is where, and then the mission is how. But the purpose is who you are and exactly what you stand for, your core essence, what you're supposed to do. So that you're not doing A today and you're doing B 3 years after, and you're just trying to push because, hey, you just want to make money. It's beyond making money. It's beyond getting a good job. It is beyond all of those things individually. It is a culmination of all these things together for you. It is your blueprint for your life. It is your path to your destiny for what you're supposed to do on the planet. That is when and why you're able to build structures, you're able to consolidate on those structures, you're able to get results, and they are able to pour out and give to others, then leave the planet empty. If you're going to leave the planet empty, if you're going to achieve anything on the planet, you need to know your purpose. Your purpose is going to help you put all the pieces together. That is what I see. That is where I think we should be starting from. And that's where, you are now beginning to understand the right intentions and goals and how they can help shape the trajectories of the year, like we had discussed earlier. Because if you need to shape the trajectories of the year, you must know where you're going. You must know what you're about. You must know what you want to do. You must know how you're going to do it. You must know all of these things. If you do not know those things, then it is not likely that you might progress as you really should. So, for me, it is vital as well as crucial that these things must be brought to bear. That these key issues, these are the pillars, that will help us to move forward. So instead of coming up with resolutions, we need to start from the very foundation. Because when you know your purpose, you're not afraid anymore. You're not saying, oh, maybe I'm in the wrong boat. Maybe I'm going the wrong way. Maybe I need to make a U-turn. When you understand that, the blueprint begins to play out as you align with the spiritual, as you align with God, who will help reveal things to you. And those things will be revealed mentally, they will be revealed professionally, they will be revealed socially, they will be revealed in every way. That is what I see.
Thanks, Doing. The funny thing, I know you had made mention of the word purpose. It's truly a word that takes a deep searching and all of that, and it's really internal than external. And so when people are sitting back now and just wondering, what the hell are these guys talking about? Here I am. I'm just thinking about how I want to survive. I need to, make sure that I get resources in. How does this translate into me having a very solid financial life? I think it's about, swimming and understanding the nature of the tide. Today, in our country, the average, or let me put it this way, the guys that are hardworking are not necessarily the ones that are seen and also promoted. What I don't understand is why it always goes through that route. Those that easily get recognized and get promoted or pushed are the ones that are not investing so much by way of either knowledge and all of that, but they tend to they're smarter. They have a way to meander. They have a way to cut through the chase. And they seemingly begin to look very successful. So I'm out there listening to this program and I'm saying to myself, fantastic piece, understanding my purpose. Do these guys that are flaunting and shoving cars and material things around me, do they really understand the purpose? Because if they do, some of them will not be wasteful. But here I am, I'm sitting back and I'm saying, is it about wealth? Well, not wealth. Is it the ability to showcase material stuff? Is that what makes me come through as a successful man? And the answer, I'll say, no. Material things do not define success. In fact, the very first time success appears in the Bible, in my opinion, is Joshua 1:8. And you would find that there's a process to having that good success. So what is good success? Good success is being able to fulfill one's purpose in life. And in some other context, you can talk about destiny. So I hear you doing, and I'm saying there are folks that are sitting down and listening to us and saying, these guys are sounding very philosophical, but is this going to put food on the table for me? Yes, it will. If you are just going to put yourself in a place by doing something about your free time. There you can't work 24 hours flat out. Yes, you're going to sleep. Very many people throw away their free time doing stuff that would have been more productive to help them get to that place that is called there. You know, I started by talking about what successful people do. They read. What else? They invest in personal development. They give back. During their own free time, they give back. They go back. They pour themselves into others. And many times over, you find that the more they are able to put out this stuff, the better they become. They engage in physical activity. You know, you talked about physical life. They understand why it's important to incorporate regular exercises into their routine. They also understand that it's important to be mindful and being present in the moment. That's mindfulness. And it's an act of consciously focusing the mind on the present without judgment. We judge ourselves too harshly. So if you're in the moment and without really sitting in a space of judgment and without concern for the past or the future, it can result in decreased stress and anxiety. Because many people are shortchanging themselves because they've heightened stress, they've heightened anxiety. Why? You've improved the concentration of your stress, and yet there's no satisfaction with the output. Then you become depressed. And it comes back to this thing about where you talked about the physical life. But mindfulness is what can make you step away from that. Just be in the moment, incorporating it into one's free time. And how do you do it? By meditating. You can take a mindful walk or intentionally focusing on one task at a time. I've never been a fan of multitasking. I'm being honest with you. Because it's only computers that can do multitask. I'm not a computer, but the human brain is 10 times, 100 times faster, better than the computer. But a human is a human is a human. You can't do 10 things at the same time. That's why even a computer, when you enter knocking too much into it, worry about Daruni, the brain just goes kaput. So why would someone now tell me that multitasking is so good? I can be doing this, I can be doing that. Now, I'm not going to get into the forays of the African woman who can be cooking at the same time, listening to a program here, doing that, tending the baby, nurturing. You know, you can call that multitasking. But when you go through that process, you never give 100%. Something is given. You don't get 100. But if you're able to execute one, move to the next. It's called sequencing. But I tell you, mindfulness allows you, and it's a powerful way to boost not only your mental health, but your potential for success. And that's why that good book in Joshua 1:8 talks about you must meditate upon it day and night, and you observe to do that which you have found. And then you can have good success. Meditation is a big piece in this pie because your mind, you need this hollow to be sane. And that's how you get into nurturing the right relationships to help you. If you don't nurture relationships, how are you going to be successful? How? No man is an island. You can't be a repository of everything. That's why we have family, we have friends, we have significant others, we have all manner of stuff. We have all kinds of people. And it's to create room for deep conversations, shared experiences, and even moments of togetherness. That is the whole spirit and camaraderie I believe God created man for fellowship, fellows in the same ship. So, folks are listening to us now. It feels a bit sober. I feel a bit sober around it and asking myself, really and truly, I need to get these juices jumping up because something has to, happen, and something good. What do you think?
Okay. The first thing I want to say very quickly is to address the issue you mentioned about certain people who are supposedly doing quite well, but are not really doing well. But people see them and they say, oh, these guys, they're living the life, they're doing it great, whereas they do not have the wherewithal, so to speak, that the people who really do have. Okay, this is what I think. I think that there is a process that we all need to follow. So that process I'm talking about is the purpose process. Because you can know your purpose, but choose to go another way. And then when you choose to know another way, because you understand the process, you know how to get your social life together, your social capital. You know how to, what's the word now? You know how to swim in the waters of professional life and quite a number of other things. So you do not necessarily have to be should I say, the right person to get to that point that you're going to. You might have ulterior motives, but because you understand the process, you can use that process to get to that point. Whereas the man who has the wherewithal, who has the capacity, who has a good heart, who does not understand the process, will find himself struggling and not getting to that point, to that final point. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So, like you have said, it is important for us to bring in quite a number of things to bear. We need to mind our minds. We need to take time to understand, take time to build, take time to ask questions. That is where the mindfulness comes in. That is where the self-reflection comes in. That is where intentionality comes in. It's all about investment in personal development. It's about understanding your mind, understanding your potentials, understanding your values, reassessing your values, checking yourself again and again. Where am I going? How do I want to get there? It's beyond just saying, oh, I started this business now, I'm making big money. And 3 years later, you're saying, oh, that business isn't working anymore. I'm doing something else now. And quite a number of us have found ourselves in that situation. So I think that we need to really come together, go down to the foundation and do the work. This is the beginning of the year. There's no need to, we know the time is ticking. We know every 24 hours, one day is gone, but it is better, or it is best, more like, to work the work right now. I said that deliberately. It's better to do that, to go deep into the trenches, to build the foundations, to have a good understanding, so that whatever it is that you're going to put up is going to be enduring. It's going to be an enduring thing, and you'll be able to achieve that which you really need. That's how I see it.
Doing this is quite it's quite explosive, and I pray that we all get to that place called rich fulfillment, and 2025 will definitely get us there. And why do I say that? There's this heightened awareness that is all around. And, it takes me back to one of the books I had in my study or in my library. It was talking about, the question was, what color is your parachute?
Wow.
And there it was just symbolic, it was addressing job hunters and career changers. These are some of the things that a lot of people will require on their journeys. And I would leave us at this point, and we'll revisit it. But frankly, I think turning this page into this year, it's a fresh start, new beginning. Let's take it that we are kicking off on a path where we will all come back to say we made it, we did it. God helped us. That is my belief, whether you're starting your own business, but you must have an inventory of what you have to offer the world so you can know what you've actually done, and it's necessary. So time is no longer a friend. I think we need to call it a wrap. Thank you very much, Doyin. It's good to have you in the new year.
It's always good to be here.
We'll be back, definitely, listeners. We definitely will be back. And I'd like you all to just, think about the things that we've talked about. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop me a line, contact@navigatewithid.com. That's the email address. And I rarely talk about my social media platforms, but it's simply at IDYENANG. If you have questions, just come up and let's see what we can do to make that glorious. Doyin, I look forward to seeing you shortly in another, for us to take this forward. And thanks again, as always, for coming on.
Thank you too. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, goodbye, everyone. We'll be back in another 2 days.
A radio program like no other.
Very many people out there who do not even take on any evaluation, just jump in. Oh, my friend says he's making a lot of money. Oh, my auntie says this is good business. The same way you've jumped in, you jump out.
Get insights from a seasoned expert.
Of course, an angel is an individual private investor, someone who has excess wealth and they'd like to invest in a private business.
Talk about your one-stop shop business program.
That's the whole essence of having a business school on radio.
It's your business school on radio. Navigate with ID right here on Lagos Talks 91.3, airing on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3 to 4 p.m.
And if you need to get across to me, please send an email to contact@navigatewithid.com, or you can also follow me on my social media platforms at IDYENANG. Thank you so much and God bless.
And that was Navigate with ID, brought to you by Corporate Shepherds.